Yes, and there are some surprises here. This is our May read on consumer confidence from the Conference Board. On the headline number, we're expecting a number somewhere north of 87. Comes in strong, 98.0. That is the best number since February of this year.
Republicans are seen as apex predators like lions, tigers, and sharks, beasts that take what they want when they want it. Democrats are typically tagged as tortoises, slugs, or sloths, slow, plodding, passive. And then a little bit later, there was a respondee who said the Democrats are like a deer in headlights. How is it that you think that the Democratic Party has earned these descriptions?
So I don't want to speak too soon, obviously, but it would currently appear that President Trump is beginning to round a corner on the economy, both in terms of the court of public opinion as well as the raw numbers themselves. And needless to say, especially considering the fact that this is not something that really happened ever under Joe Biden, this is catastrophically bad political news for Democrats. Why do I say that? Because this is the only issue they have or maybe could have had if you're the Democrats. Basically, going forward, looking at the 2028 election, the only sliver of political hope for Democrats would be, considering, again, 27% approval rating, a party that was completely shattered by this past election cycle, is to basically hold on and grasp at the vague hope that maybe there will be a recession come 2028, the economy will be in shambles, there'll be a slow recovery, and that will be the opportunity for Democrats to basically ride the economy wave that usually carries an election to an accidental victory. Because when you look at Democrats on every single other issue, immigration, they are massively unpopular on, as we've gone on before, which is, of course, hilarious considering Democrats spent an entire month melting down about Kilmar Garcia when I kept showing them time and time again. Guys, Donald Trump is most popular. His best issue is immigration and deportations. That's what you want to focus on? Oh, newsflash, Democrat approval rating did not exactly get all that much better, did it? And now what do they have? I don't know. Melting down about the jet from Qatar or something that nobody really cares about, or I don't know, whatever supposed, the corruption scandal of the week. Tertiary things, irrelevant things that nobody cares about, okay? Nobody cares about the jet from Qatar. Nobody cares about, I don't know, what is it now? Harvard University. I'm not saying like literally nobody cares, but I mean that in the sense these are not issues that are going to truly move voters to come to your side in an election, especially when you are rebuilding from a 27% approval rating. And with that in mind, I do want to tell you today about the, some of the economic numbers themselves, but also the way in which over the past month, despite the fact that trade deals have not even been made yet, but they're signaling to be heading in that direction. And in some places across America, I've noticed them, maybe you have as well, prices are starting to go down in certain areas. It appears that public opinion is beginning to shift in Trump's favor on that very vital issue of the economy again. And secondly here, the way in which it seems to be making Democrats noticeably desperate, because right now they have no idea what to do. Should we talk about Qatar? Should we talk about a meme coin? Should we talk about all these random things that people are not really interested in? What should we do? We'll tell you all about that in today's video. First though, folks, do us a big favor. If you enjoy the content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel. If you are new, subscribing is the best way to support our work, and let's continue our push. We're almost at 500K, so make sure you hit that red button. And with that in mind, I just want to show you something here really quickly. This is from Rasmussen Group, which you might say is a right-wing pollster, so we'll show you other sources in a second, but I just want to show you this important statistic right here. So currently, by the way, Rasmussen got 2024 pretty accurate, but nonetheless, on trust on the economy, according to this poll, Republicans are trusted 45 to Democrats 37. So what are we saying there? As of May 20th, 2021, towards the end of this month, Republicans are currently enjoying a +8 advantage over Democrats on the economy. Again, this is despite everything you saw in April with the Liberation Day and all the panic and the stock market crash that has since recovered, because we called out panicants at the time. We said, just hold your horses. Things are going to be fine. There's going to be negotiations. There's going to, be a rewriting of maybe certain aspects of the economic order. And lastly here, a lot of the fear mongering about the consumer prices exploding because of it were largely overblown. People realized that, and hence what happened. Now, here's what's interesting, okay? Is the shift month over month from April when Rasmussen conducted this poll as compared to now. As you can see, last month, trust on the following issues. Economy was only R+1 for the Republicans. Inflation was D+4, according to Rasmussen. So according to Rasmussen, Democrats actually had a 4-point lead in terms of public trust on inflation. Again, economy basically tied, narrow Republican lead. But look at where we are now, okay? So the month of Liberation Day, oh, so much panic. Everyone said just hold your horses. Now, ladies and gentlemen, on the economy, again, it is R+8, and inflation, we are now up R+6. So that is a 10-point shift in the last month on inflation and a 7-point shift in the last month on the issue of the economy. By the way, let's also discuss those ever so important gas prices, because I know personally where I live, they are noticeably down, even over Memorial Day weekend, even as it's summertime, high season. I saw even like below $3 for regular, which for my area is pretty freaking good. Some people in blue states, I've seen West Coast, are saying it's still high, but overall, here's where we are, right? The current national average for regular gasoline is $3.17 a gallon. International viewers are going to be very confused at what this even means, but for 89 is $3.60, and premium is now at $4, basically flat. 1 year ago, guys, regular was $3.59 nationally, mid-grade was $4, premium was $4.38. So that is currently where we are. So you see at least some consumer prices starting to come down. Again, I know some people are saying, oh, my groceries are already way down. Oh, my gas is already way down. Some people are saying, especially I notice those in blue states, it's still the same. You know, overall, we're looking here at national average. I've noticed it. Other people have noticed it. Yes, some consumer prices are starting to go down, or I should say they've been down, right? Because some of them actually have been down for a couple of months now. Again, this is despite all of the tariff panic. But ladies and gentlemen, here is perhaps the biggest economic statistic of the day, guys. Consumer confidence has improved for the first time since November. Okay, since November, it's been going down, but this, guys, is the largest single month increase since around the start, or I should say back during the COVID pandemic in March of 2021. That is right. Biggest increase since March 2021. As you can see here, reported by CNN of all outlets. It's been a little while since Americans had an inkling of optimism about the economy. Consumer confidence rose 12.3 points this month to a reading of 98. The Conference Board said in its latest survey released on Tuesday. That is, again, the biggest monthly gain since November and the biggest monthly increase since March 2021. But as usual, guys, as we always say, okay, every single time, this was the case with the inflation reports and the jobs reports. It's just a continuous trend under the Trump economy. Kind of reminds me of the first term. They always defy expectations, guys. The reading currently, consumer confidence at 98, is higher once again than the economist forecast of a reading of 88, according to the data firm FactSet. So there you go again, right? Inflation's gonna go up. It went down. The jobs report's gonna suck. It was actually pretty good. And again, this is all despite the economic uncertainty of the trade war, of everything going on, right? Deals have not been finalized. So that's why I say these numbers surely, if everything works out, right, we don't have any type of catastrophe, is looking up, right? Again, that's why I say rounding the corner. This is only just the start, because as CNN here even points out, Trump's trade war is still in a flux, but some countries have signaled they're willing to cooperate and potentially strike a full trade deal. Well, imagine where that both investor and consumer confidence will be if it all works out.
But I want to point out consumer confidence from the Conference Board. On the headline number, we're expecting a number somewhere north of 87. Comes in strong, 98.0. That is the best number since February of this year. But I want to point out something. In the rearview mirror, last month's revision from 86 to 85.7 means that last month's headline confidence equals April of 2020, COVID affected, but you have to go back another 6 years to May of 2014 to find a lower number than 85.7. So a nice rebound over what was most likely a market exaggeration.
Yeah, so there you go. Again, troubling news here for Democrats, but we are not done. As of today, YouGov is also reporting that Donald Trump's net favorability, as you can see here in the yellowish orange, is beginning to climb on the rise once again. And according to that same Rasmussen poll that we referenced earlier, for the first time in the history of the Rasmussen poll, a majority, 50% of Americans are now saying that the nation is on the right track. This is the first time in the entire history of the Rasmussen poll, which has been around for, I believe, about 29 years, if I'm not mistaken, that a majority of Americans have said this. That includes, of course, Donald Trump's first term. Oh, and by the way, would also like to point out, these are not the only polls in the past few months who have shown similar things, right? Good favorability for Trump as compared to his historical standards, but also secondly, for the first time in a very long time, Americans are actually optimistic about the future of this country, believe it or not. That is big because that is a difference that transcends even like Trump or Biden necessarily. So optimism is back in America. That is a big deal. And for future elections, by the way, is arguably the number one sign.
Itself, with him at the helm,
Correct.
is on the right track.
This, I think, is rather important because, again, if the polls have historically underestimated Donald Trump, what is a metric that might get at understanding at how popular he may actually be? So let's take a look at the percentage of the country who say that we're on the right track. It's actually a very high percentage when you compare it to some historical numbers. What are we talking about? According to Maris, 45% say that we're on the right track. That's the second highest that Maris has measured since 2009. How about NBC News? 44%. That's the highest since 2004. Wow. The bottom line is the percentage of Americans who say we're on the right track is through the roof. And if you were to compare it to when presidents have historically been reelected, of course, Trump is not constitutionally eligible to run for re-election, but I think it sort of puts it in perspective. 42% of the country says the country is on the right track when the incumbent party is re-elected. And also keep in mind, back when Kamala Harris lost and the Democrats were turned out of power, only about 27 to 28% of the country said the country was on the right track. The bottom line is right now, a much higher percentage of the country says we're on the right track. And finally, Sarah Seidner, I want to put it all in the congressional generic ballot.
What about Congress?
What about Congress? Because those are the folks who are up in 2026. And take a look here. The Dems versus the Republicans on the generic congressional ballot. Back in November of 2020, when Democrats won, it was +5 Democrats. Tied in November of 2022, +1 in November of 2024 when Republicans maintain control. And then you look at March of 2025. This number looks a lot more like 2022 or 2024 when Republicans won control of Congress. The bottom line is, yes, Donald Trump's approval rating is lower than compared to a lot of his predecessors, but it's higher than compared to himself. A lot of folks say the country's on the right track, and the generic congressional ballot looks a heck of a lot more like when Republicans win than when Democrats win.
Right. Well, considering all of that, this is exactly why I say that Democrats are in a very rough political position at the moment. Because when you either look forward to 2028 or even just right now, okay, the sheer kind of universal rule of politics is this. Number one, right? What's the biggest issue? The economy. To quote Mr. James Carville himself, and he was not wrong, it's the economy, stupid. That is the most accurate predictor, generally speaking, of elections, specifically presidential elections, but even sometimes to a degree off-year elections as well, number one. And number two, another sort of magic statistic a lot of people have used to predict presidential elections and what's going to happen is, yes, that right track, wrong track question. Typically, when you hit that magic number of, as he points out there, 42% or a higher amount, whatever, of Americans say that they think the country is on the right track. The incumbent party is in a favorable position, obviously. They will get reelected. If it's less than that, if it's small, if it's low, like 27% like Kamala, then yeah, the incumbent party loses election. Both of those numbers. So the right track has been strong basically for all of the presidency, as a matter of fact. But now, again, rounding a quarter on the economy, right? Because obviously, April, people were freaking out. I said, look, hold on for a second. Even as this approval rating dropped, I said, look, just, everyone calm down, right? This is how it works. If you're going to try to fix something or change something, you got to flip the table over. It's like the first few months of his presidency, there's going to be a little roller coaster ride. Let's see where we are. Like, first of all, in a couple months, well, now here we are like 1 month later, right? Things are already shaping up there. But even, let's see where we are by the end of the year, next year, right? A lot can change, obviously. But at the current moment, you consider the economic numbers. You look at the fact that Democrats have largely had to shut up about it because they can't fearmonger about the egg prices anymore. It really begs the question, what the heck is the party going to do now? Like, what issue can they hammer home and focus on, right? Because again, I'm going to reiterate, no one cares about the Qatari jet or the meme coin or all these like just stupid random things, okay? Like, they're just irrelevant. Oh, he gave a speech at West Point and he made a joke about a wife or something. Like, I don't even know, just nonsense, right? Just typical Democrat nonsense. Voters don't care about this stuff. They barely pay attention, okay? It's really terminally online behavior. But on serious issues, what are they going to do? Well, I think the recent maneuvers by Democrat politicians truly do indicate that level of desperation, because I kid you not, guess what they're still doing? On May 26th and 27th of 2025, still going to El Salvador to visit Kilmar Garcia. That is right. Talk about like milking a cow to freaking death there. Still now, right? A month later, Kilmar Garcia. Democrats, this is not working for you, but when you're that desperate for clout and attention or like anything you have against Trump, this is apparently what Democrats were doing just yesterday in El Salvador.
I'm the congressman that represents Kilmar. I came all the way down from the United States after we'd contacted their ambassador, after we'd made formal requests to our ambassador to the El Salvadoran government. And we came here to visit him today. And now they're telling us we got to go all the way back to El Salvador, to San Salvador to get a permit. That's ridiculous. We ought to have a chance to come in and visit. They knew we were coming. They knew why we were coming. And they know we have the right to do this. So they need to just cut the crap. Let us get in there and have a chance to see him and talk with him. We got his lawyer here. We got somebody from the unions here to talk with him. Let us in. Stop playing games. Let us have a chance to talk with him.
I love the end. Made by CapCut, by the way, guys. So apparently, right, this congressman seems to think he has the right, okay? He has the right to go to another country and demand to be led into a high security prison without a permit, right? All they said is you need a permit, you need clearance, you need permission to do so. This is political. I should be able to show up on a dime and, everyone should be able to see Kilmar Garcia, He's basically becoming a tourist attraction at this point for the nation of El Salvador. It's like, hey, everyone come see Kilmar Garcia, right? That's the #1 tourist. It's so ridiculous. But again, this is what they have. They have nothing. You're going to do the same thing again? You're going to do Kilmar Garcia again, really? A month after the story is dead? Nothing. In fact, I even saw today, right? The media is just like looking for a story. The news is slow. Hey, let's talk about Kilmar Garcia again. I really do think, guys, that the just sheer level of Democrat cluelessness and just the feeling of being lost in the wilderness and whatever, just no clue what to do, really did come up in this interview actually just today between CNN and Florida Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who you may remember as one of the corrupt Hillary Clinton supporters that arguably screwed Bernie in the 2016 primary. Right, a very establishment person here. But this CNN anchor tries to ask her about the unfavorability and the unpopularity of the Democrat Party. Why do Democrat voters out there perceive you guys to be so useless? And her useless response here really does tell it all. Take a listen.
Our friends over at the New York Times are doing a series periodically looking into the Democratic Party and the challenges facing the Democrats as you try to run into the next election with some kind of momentum. Shane Goldmacher, among others, is doing this research. And he talks about in an article over the weekend, a focus group led by a longtime Democratic researcher who asked some 250 people to describe or compare each party to an animal. And I want to read you what this found. Republicans are seen as apex predators like lions, tigers, and sharks, beasts that take what they want when they want it. Democrats are typically tagged as tortoises, slugs, or sloths, slow, plodding, passive. And then a little bit later, there was a respondee who said the Democrats are like a deer in headlights. How is it that you think that the Democratic Party has earned these descriptions?
John, I'm not focused on the animals that some New York Times reporter compares the political parties to. My constituents are human beings, And the human beings that I represent are facing devastating healthcare cuts, the most significant healthcare cuts that have been ever handed down. So I'm focused on the humans I represent, not, animal comparisons.
I will tell you, it was the voters who were making the comparison with animals, and this was a focus group. It wasn't the New York Times reporter coming up with these labels. This was a Democratic-led focus group to try to figure out perceptions of the parties.
Don, you said they were asked to compare the parties, so they were prompted to compare the parties to animals. That is ridiculous. I've watched a lot of focus groups, and I know that the people that I represent want me fighting for the humans, the families that I represent. They don't want Republicans transferring, more and more wealth to many more billionaires. They want to make sure that, like what Democrats did under Joe Biden, under a Democratic majority, we ensured that we cut taxes for the middle class, folks who put that money right back into the economy when they buy refrigerators with the windfall and other kinds of kinds of expenses. We made sure that we reduced prescription drug prices. We started to bring chip manufacturing back home. We passed the largest infrastructure and investment act in history, and now those jobs we're seeing come to fruition with rebuilding our infrastructure. That's what people want their government to do for them. They don't want a lawless dictator of a president who hires anti-Semites and who then acts like he's trying to fight to protect the Jewish community. The hypocrisy in this administration is appalling. Appalling.
Right. Okay. Is that why the American people, the voters, voted for Donald Trump? Because they didn't want that? In your words, right? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, okay? Oh, the voters wanted what Joe Biden did, in her own words. Okay, then why did Biden not get reelected? A simple question there. But, who can really blame her? Because after all, as I'm going to repeat here, the Democrats have nothing. Like, they have nothing they can run on. They're still going on about the record of Joe Biden, right? That's what the full horseshoe is complete. From ousting Joe Biden to the race to getting to the point you're so desperate, you're like, I'm going to defend Joe Biden's legacy. And then talking, I guess their new talking point is, oh, Donald Trump's going to cut Medicaid, guys, Medicaid cuts. Well, here's the thing, okay? Just to be clear, the big beautiful bill makes two requirements. First of all, you have to be a U.S. citizen or legal resident to receive Medicaid. You can't be an illegal alien receiving benefits, number one. And number two, right, what is the other one there is if you're able-bodied and between 18 and 65 on Medicaid, you have to actually work or be trying to work. You can't just sit on your butt and receive government benefits. So of those two demographics, right, okay, for those people, you could say Medicaid is cut. But guess what? What's going to happen when all of the so-called sob stories of like people who are actually need Medicaid or disabled or whatever, right, all those stuff that the Democrats keep bringing up, what's going to happen after the big beautiful bill passes and those people still have Medicaid? All right, how long is the lie going to last? It's actually, frankly, going to be very similar to the egg prices thing, right? Remember, egg prices are going up, guys. It's Donald Trump's fault. Oh, wait, they went down again, right? You can only keep a lie going for a couple months. Long term, get to 2026, 2028. When senior citizens who are currently, even them, like, protesting over this stuff and whatnot, when they get there and their Social Security and Medicare is still there and never went anywhere, how convincing is the Democrat argument then? When the people who are on Medicaid who are not committing fraud still have their Medicaid is there, what are they going to say? And by the way, I would argue the people committing Medicaid fraud probably don't really vote Republican to begin with, okay? So what's going to happen then, It's just pure desperation, right? She has no idea what to say, right? Basically, the CNN anchor is asking, why is your party useless and pathetic, and why does nobody respect you? Well, I'm focused on talking about Donald Trump, guys. Okay, yeah. See how that works out for you. Okay, see how that works out for you. In the real world, things are starting to look quite good, trending in the right direction. We got work to do, but that corner has been rounded, and that is good news to say the least. All right, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.